Welcome to GDS 076 Emerging Trends in Interaction Design. My name is Curtis Pembroke and I'll be your instructor for the course. Let's take a second or two, or a few minutes really, to take a look at the syllabus. If you haven't done so already, please make sure that you download and print a copy of the syllabus. I sent it to you in email yesterday, and it's also available on Canvas. And you want to have a hard copy just in case you want to take a few notes while I present this video. Please let me know if you find any typos, because one of the things you'll notice is that I definitely studied engineering and design, not typing. So again, this is GDS 076, Emerging Trends in Interactions Design. This is the first semester that we are offering this course, and Mark and I worked for almost 2 years in developing the UX and UI certificate. And this is one of 4 courses, core courses in that certificate. And so you are fortunate to be my guinea pigs. So we're going to learn a lot together and kind of go with the flow and see how things work. As I mentioned, my name is Curtis Pembroke. Some of you already had classes with me. I've been teaching at Mission College. This now is my 21st semester, 21st year. And I've been around a long time. And I started with Mission College. First, I was part-time instructor and the faculty instructional designer. So I help faculty to produce e-learning. Worked on quite a few platforms. Back in the old days, we were making online courses with HTML and what little CSS we had. And it's so funny because instructors were using Microsoft Front Page back in those days. You probably haven't heard of Front Page. It was the most popular tool at the time. Then Dreamweaver came out, and some instructors used Dreamweaver, but because of it, that high bar, only a few people were teaching online. We started with only 6 online courses when I was hired, and we had like 20 or 30 correspondence and telecourses. And now I don't even know how many online courses Mission has, because I left instructional design in 2011 and I moved over and started teaching full time. So you can reach me via the district email, standard email, or during office hours. I'll be on campus this semester, Mondays and Wednesdays from 5:30 to 6:30. I'll also be enabling Zoom, so I'll let you know when Zoom's on, and I'll be there. If you need to see me any other time, you can catch me on Fridays. I did want to let you know that just like you, I need the weekends off. And so after 5 p.m. on Fridays, you can pretty much rest assured that I'll disappear. But I'll check in again with you on Sunday morning briefly, and then I'm back in Canvas again on Sunday night. And generally during the weekdays, I'm in Canvas every day for the most part. We're here for the full duration of the semester. The course is completely online. The official start date is January 29th, but that's the default for all online and hybrid courses because the state of California kind of sets it that way. But I like to start the course from Monday to Monday. So I made things available slowly but surely over this weekend. But like I look at it like our official like getting to work day starts on Mondays. And it runs from Mondays through that following Sunday night, Monday morning. So this class is fully online. No face-to-face requirements, no synchronous lectures via Zoom. I'll be in Zoom for office hours if you want to see me, but otherwise there's no lecture. Because there's a high demand for office hours, if you request to see me on Zoom, I'll give you about a 15-minute window. It's important that you complete everything in the orientation. That's why I devote this first week to all the logistics to make sure you understand the course. So look at the syllabus. If you have any questions, post your questions in the questions forum. Don't send me an email. I'll explain that in a second. You want to take the survey, and you want to complete the orientation quiz, and then you're considered officially enrolled. If you don't do all those things, you're not officially enrolled in the class. So I need to see that you've viewed this video, which if you're watching it, I'll see that in Canvas. I also need you to complete the survey and the orientation quiz. Once you do those things, you're quote unquote officially in the class. If you don't do those things by 12/12, I will drop you. And that's because I have to report official enrollment on, not 12/12, on 2/12. I have to report official enrollment on 2/13. And so if you're not done with all those things by 2/13, and I mean, that gives you quite a bit of time. I would hope you would be done by this, not this Monday, but the following Monday, because I'm going to make the next module available, and the course is going to move pretty quickly. So you can read all that yourself. I have some things in here like important dates that might help you in staying aware of what's going on campus. In this course, you're going to apply interaction design principles that you learned in GDS 070 and GDS 072, digital imaging, Mark's class, which looks like an awesome course. I mean, I'm not worthy. My class is probably only going to be a morsel compared to his. But we're going to take a look at designing and prototyping emerging technologies. So we'll take a look and continue a look at mobile. But really, we're going to contrast it in mobile, not so much that we redo what you've already learned if you've taken 72, for example, but reinforcing some basic design and interaction design principles, like making sure that the actual UI and the micro interactions within the UI, they meet the user's needs, that they have some essential features like discoverability and learnability, etc. We're going to take a look at that, and we're going to talk a little bit about theory of things like mental models and contextual analysis, again, because it's so important to interaction design. So we'll look at mobile, wearable, voice activated, and smart appliances. Towards the end, we'll look at voice activated, and we'll do kind of that one's going to be kind of really quick because that's still emerging, and there's not a whole lot. Designers are working in designing voice activated controls and applications, but we don't have the platforms to do it in a comprehensive way, although we'll talk about it, and we'll also take a look at other smart appliances, like what we see in self-driving cars or electric cars. Almost every car now has a multifunction display. You're going to explore trends and best practices in interaction design for these different technologies. And some of them, we don't know what best practice is. And so, excuse me. And so we will kind of speculate. When you finish this course, you're going to be able to continue your adventure in designing user interfaces and some of the accepted design patterns for those interfaces, whether it be mobile, AR, VR, etc. And you're going to become fluent in, again, some of the software. We'll be using Figma again, although I will review Adobe XD in case some of you are interested in continuing to use XD. We briefly get an introduction to XD in GDS 070. I'll let you read the objectives because they parallel the outcomes a lot. Now I want to talk about textbooks. Recently, O'Reilly has been sort of consolidating and reducing its free textbooks. And what they're doing, and I think the publishers are pushing it, they're not offering the latest edition of textbooks for free. They're offering the older editions. And, I was wondering when this little free train would probably stop. Because I think what was happening is with O'Reilly and their free, when they were offering current books for free, people were printing and copying and violating copyright. So what I found, and I got surprised with one textbook already this semester, where it showed is available, and within the last week they took it down, and they are only making the edition before available for free. And I'm bringing this up because we try to be aware of the expense of textbooks. But in this class, I'm asking that you spend about $40 or you rent one book, and that is Interaction Design 5th edition by Sharp, Rogers, and Priest. And it's a pretty good book. You can use the 3rd edition that's available for free on O'Reilly, but it's not up to date in terms of mobile and XR. And, I think this is a good textbook. We're going to use about 2/3 of it, or maybe a little more, maybe about 70% of it. You're going to need a sketchbook to kind of sketch your ideas. But we're going to get to prototyping right away with Figma, and of course doing that review of XD. I'll also provide you with additional free readings, or like web articles and videos, etc. And I have a whole list of optional textbooks. These first two, I will cross-reference, so that's where we'll get readings from the other quarter of our class. About Face, The Essentials of Interaction Design by Alan Cooper. It is an excellent book. It's an excellent book on interaction design. The problem is it's a heavy read. It's almost 700 pages. And our textbook, Interaction Design by Sharp and the rest of the team, it's pretty heavy duty too, including the references and everything. But About Face is very comprehensive, and also it's one of those books that I think for you as a designer, it's great to have on your bookshelf and go back and reference it. It's like a practitioner's book, and it's really good. And so is Interaction Design, although they cover some theory. They both cover theory, but About Face doesn't cover it in much detail. But I don't think that it's necessarily the best textbook for undergraduates. For graduate students, who have experience in UX or interaction design, I think it's great. So at any rate, it's an optional textbook, Intuitive Design, 8 Steps to an Intuitive UI. In fact, if you have to choose between About Face and the Intuitive Design, I would get Intuitive Design. It's an excellent book. I mean, really excellent. It does discuss some principles that we will learn along the way in this class, or you probably learned in the digital imaging class, GDS 72. But it's one you want to have on your bookshelf once you graduate and go on to work as a highly paid UX designer or web developer. And then Micro Interactions and the Mobile Design Gallery will also be references. So we have a lot of references, but I'll try to keep the reading down to a reasonable rate. Again, you can get free copies of the previous edition of most of these books, with the exception of Intuitive Design. and they're on O'Reilly, but they're the older versions, and they spend a lot of time talking about desktops applications, with the exception of these two. This one really spends a lot of time on desktop apps, which is something that we don't really do. Some of you will design apps for the desktop, but with a lot of the emergence and integration of these different technologies and apps, what we do on mobile would pretty much apply to desktop. Mobile and web would apply to desktop. In terms of assignments, here's a list of what we're going to do. You have the orientation that you need to complete now, right? We have collaborate activities and discussions, 5 of them, worth 100 points. And if you've done them with me, and if you've taken GDS 070, you'll recognize what those are like. They're basically where you will make something and then share it with your peers. There are 8 lab demos, and you'll complete the lab demo with me. I'll have a video that you can watch. Either I'll create it or I'll point you at one. And really, the lab demos help you to prepare for your final project. So I want you to work through those lab demos, and then you submit them, so that way I know you've done it and that you're more apt to apply it to your final project. And then you have 2 usability tests and associated discussions. And so you're going to do an alpha test, which will occur early when you develop and redline some clickable wireframes or some very, very detailed wire flows for people to look at. And then beta test, which you would do just before you submit your final project. And for this semester, I'll give you more details on what the usability protocol should look like. And you're going to basically include it in your creative brief and documentation for your final project. And your final project can be either mobile, wearable, or XR. One thing I didn't mention is we're going to take a look at creating augmented reality. Virtual reality is an entire class by itself. We're going to look at the concepts, but we will play with Adobe Aero and Adobe Dimensions briefly, so that you can see the process actually using the software to create AR, so that you keep that in mind should you design or prototype for AR. Aero would be a great tool for prototyping AR, an AR app, or something that you will do and let an AR developer produce. And so you want to pick some platform that you want to use to deliver your final project. If you were working on mobile and GDS 072, you might be able to continue that, but then supplemented by developing a high fidelity prototype for the smartwatch that is basically a complement to your app. We'll talk about these projects some more next week. You all know, if you've taken my classes, about my grading. My grading philosophy is I'm a terrible grader. I can get behind from here, from time to time. I'm not terrible, but I get behind depending on what's happening. But I really don't believe that we should use grades. I believe that everything should be competency based. And so that being said, I look at your effort and not perfection. So you're here to learn. If you were able to do everything perfectly, then you wouldn't be in this class. And so, and in some of these emerging technologies, we're all learning. And so if you just submit your work on time and it looks like you put the effort into it, then you're going to do well. The schedule is very straightforward. You can read through it on your own. In fact, you should read through it because there's a question on the orientation quiz about the schedule. And I did want to point out that you can see that we dedicate 2 weeks for each modality or each technology, like 2 weeks for mobile, 2 weeks for watch OS and wearables, and we're going to look at iOS and Android, and we're going to even take a look at Google Wear, and which is actually now going through a transition because Google Wear is an amalgamation of Fitbit design standards and Google and Android standards, and their wearables. We won't look much at Samsung, but again, 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks for XR and AR. And there we're going to look at Adobe Aero and Adobe Dimensions. The labs for XR, extended reality, will probably be a one-shot deal. In other words, they won't feed so much into a project unless you decide that you want to continue and your project involves augmented reality. If you're planning on VR, as I said, that's a whole different class, and you'd be talking about using other software like Blender or whatever, but there are ways of prototyping for it. 1 week, we're going to take a look at designing voice user interfaces. And I give you 2 weeks for project development, and then we do our final presentations in May, the end of May. Each week, though, if you produce something or work on your final project, as we cover them in the course, you will have plenty of time to develop your project. As you can see up front, it's the obligatory UX stuff. We cover the obligatory UX stuff that will that it actually goes in your creative brief, and then we review visual design and interface paradigms, and then at that point we dive into mobile. So if you are developing a project that illustrates your app across multiple platforms, maybe web and mobile, then you'll start mobile, and then you get the rest of the semester to do it bit by bit, including the development weeks, for example. The rest of this stuff you can read on your own. The college requires that we include it in our syllabi, and it's valuable, but I'm not going to cover each of those topics. Again, please read the syllabus, and if you have any questions, post your questions to the questions forum, because students tend to have the same questions. Feel free to answer one another in the forum, just like you would in a traditional classroom. You might raise your hand, and an instructor like me might actually redirect that question at another student, or a student will just shout out and answer it. If you have questions of a personal nature, please email me. Don't post those in the discussion forum. All right, thanks for enrolling in GDS 076 and being the first semester guinea pigs. I'll see you online.